Hi, thank you for coming to this informational meeting as Sean Murphy's parent so I can give you a little more insight into what children with exceptionalities or disabilities are and how different 504 plans and different IEPs work and ways that the school can help you. For this public service announcement for the parents of Sean Murphy, I would first like to start out by talking about exceptionality and disabilities. A student with exceptionalities is someone who simply does not fit the social norms of everyone else. This could be someone who's intellectually advanced or also known as gifted, and it could also be someone who's physically or mentally delayed or needs different types of special education schooling programs. When we look at this, we can look at the IDEA list, which is a list of 13 different disabilities that help students qualify for special needs or different IEP plans. Your son, Sean, has autism and Savant syndrome. Autism is a very commonly known disability that some people frequently have when you look at school and the different demographics of the students that are in school. You see that oftentimes we do have a student with autism, and that could be more common than a student who displays Savant syndrome. When we look at the correlation, though, between autism and Savant syndrome, we see that they almost always correlate with each other. When doing research from understood.com, which is a great website that if you have any questions or have anything that you need to help you try and figure out for your son, this is a great place for you to start. It answers so many questions. Understood.com says that sometimes children with Savant syndrome are not acquired until later on in life, and it sometimes is only characterized because of their great memory, their great organization, or their fascination with specific objects or specific things. When we look at the correlation between what autism is and what Savant syndrome is, we see that there are lots of correlations. Autism disorder, we often see that they have remarkable memory or memorizing different things, which helps your son to be a doctor and memorize all those medical things he needs to be able to work and help save people's lives. We also see that they also have extraordinary special abilities, which that could be the ability that your son has to be able to visually see what he's talking about and explaining to people, or just having the ability to know specific models of elevators or trains just by looking at them. When we look at this and when we see if your child needs to go into special education or IEP programs, there's different ways that we can tell. Oftentimes, when a student has an IEP or is in special education, they go hand in hand. It's not necessarily always that a student in special education has an IEP or vice versa, but oftentimes they do have some connection or correlation. There's so many ranging individuals that are in special education classes as well as those that are on IEP programs. When we look at the IDEA list, we see the different disabilities that allow students to have IEPs. They have to qualify for one of these 13 disabilities to even qualify to have an IEP. So that's one of the first steps in looking at that. IEPs are something that's done every year. It's an individualized education plan for your student that helps them to succeed in the classroom and meet the curriculum and the standards. When we look at special education, it's really an individualized classroom setting for students with those disabilities or exceptional needs to flourish in what they're doing. When we look at special education programs, we see that there's lots of correlations. We see that first, the students need to be monitored in progress. They need to get information and background on the student. We also see here that IEPs are often renewed and looked at annually. So IEPs are a part of the special education process and understanding the students with the different special needs. Now, when looking at different IEPs, you may also be familiar with a 504 plan. IEPs, however, are when students have disabilities that interfere with their ability to benefit in the general education classroom and get the curriculum they need, while students with 504 plans have disabilities that hinder them from meeting the standards that are set in their general education classroom without accommodations. So oftentimes students with IEPs are given accommodations such as being able to wear headphones, getting extra time in the classroom, while students with IEPs are set up on a plan. They have a set plan for everything that they're doing, how they're going to do it, because it's going to help benefit them and get them to the goal that they need to meet in order to meet their education goals. Here we see the correlation between IEPs and 504s. It's a lot of the stuff I already said. There's more individualized examples on here if you want to take a look after this meeting's over. But we also see lots of differences between IEPs and 504s. So right here, I've just listed a few of them. So first, the IEP is the bullet print for the student's special education experience in a school, while a 504 plan is a blueprint for how the student is going to be provided the support with the different accommodations at the school. An IEP is an individualized education related to meet the child's unique needs, and a 504 plan is providing the change to the environment and allowing the student to get the different change that they need to meet the same needs as his peers. Students who are eligible for a 504 plan simply have to have any disability. This could be dyslexia, ADHD, anything like that that you might not think of as a disability, such as being handicapped, having Down syndrome, having autism, all those different things that you may see in your son that would qualify him automatically for having a disability. These students with 504 plans, they have to have just something on there. They can have, like I said, it can be an emotional need, it can be anything like that, which emotional needs are on the IDEA list, but just being more specific and vague. And like I said, in order to have an IEP, it has to be found on the IDEA list for the disabilities. Now, when we're looking at the individualized intervention and educational frameworks, such as the RTI and the PBIS, there's a lot to throw at you there. So RTI is response to intervention, and what this is it's just the individualized approach, research-based approach that we take to make sure that students are in the right tier of intervention. So we look at the different tiers. When it comes to intervention, there's 3 tiers. There's the whole group tier, where not much attention is paid other than the whole group class lesson when the teacher is teaching. There's a little separate things that you would think of as a whole group lesson. Then tier 2, we have like the small groups, the individualized, when a teacher will pull 5 or 6 students over to a table and work with them on the same area. And then we have tier 3, which is individualized one-on-one tutoring. This can help students focus on anything they need. So the RTI is really good because it supports these different tiers. It helps you to figure out which tier your student needs to be in and what kind of support they need in order to benefit them and help them meet their educational goals. It's all research-based, like I said, but when looking at RTI, we also have PBIS, which is more of a behavioral-based plan. It is the positive behavioral role and intervention that supports in the school-wide system that allows the different people in the school to come in and work with your child, maybe through their social emotional disabilities or anything like that. So the PBIS works with that and helps you to better understand any like emotional, social, anything like that that doesn't have to do with specific learning disabilities that your child may have. So all of this is very beneficial to you. This is how you're going to choose your child's individualized plan. You are going to have a IEP for your child. Your child may also have a 504. Oftentimes, if a child does not qualify for an IEP, they will have a 504. It's not always the case, but more oftentimes than not, it is the case because the child still has some type of some type of inability to do what they need to do. Sorry, past that. Let's move on. So if your child's in need of any of these extra interventions or PBIs, the RTI, the school has different things put into place to allow your child to do so. I think that all of this information is very beneficial to you. I know I've thrown a lot at you. We talked about what education, special education is, the difference between an IEP and a 504 plan, and now we're talking about the different tiers of intervention and how they can help benefit your student, the different things you might see when checking this out. So, along with this, you need to know that the schools are here to help support you. A lot of this stuff that we went through and we look at, I went through and looked at the Ohio Department of Education for a lot of my information and facts and statistics that I found. There's quite a few quotes, if you go back and look through here, that I've included that talk about the different programs that are available to you when looking at special education programs and IEP programs. The Autism Scholarship Program gives parents of children with autism who qualify for scholarships the choice to send their child to special education programs other than the one that's cooperated by the school district. So there's many different ways that you can help your child to benefit. If you don't think they're benefiting in their school district, this is from the Ohio Department of Education. Through Ohio, you would be able to apply for this and see if there's any way that you can help get your child into that school that they need to help benefit, get the different special education, IEP programs, and to get them into the RTI and to better understand where they are in intervention. I hope that you can see all this information I've given you and it helps you to better understand what child with exceptionalities or a disability is and what different programs are set up in schools to help you and your child benefit. I'm glad that you were able to sit through my presentation and thank you for meeting with me.